Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. I'm really glad to welcome the doctor's tiger today. Robyn and Eric, thank you so much for joining me on the Intimate Marriage Podcast.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. I think I heard you interviewed somewhere, Robyn, and I've read different comments, and it always opens my mind, and I feel a lot of resonance, even though this is our first conversation, and it's also my first conversation with you, Eric. Will you describe what you do, just to give context, what your professional contribution is and your incredible vision, Robyn?
Currently, I am the founder of Stress Free MD, which is a coaching business where I teach other physicians how to relieve their stress and build resilience and improve their overall well-being.
And how long have you been doing this? Is this in part a response to the pandemic, or does it really predate the obvious stress levels that have risen?
Well, I've been in this space for about 10 years. I transitioned out of diagnostic radiology about 10 years ago after becoming very stressed and burned out and learning how to help myself. And then I wanted to help others learn what I learned. So I initially started helping several other populations, people on the cancer journey, military veterans, first responders, and anybody and everybody really that wanted help. And then, point well taken, when the pandemic hit in 2020, I decided to really hone in on our medical colleagues, understanding what they were already experiencing at the time, which was, half burned out, over 80% on the depression scale, suicide twice the national average, and knowing that the pandemic was only going to increase those numbers. So I have been helping physicians all along, but I really pivoted to focus on physicians in 2020.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Eric, you're a retired radiologist. How long have you been retired?
I've been fully retired about 3 years. And it was about 30 years of practicing diagnostic radiology, and it was time to move on to another chapter. And so I figured with with Robyn also changing like what she was doing, that it was a good time to just move on with our lives and try something else.
And is there a specific next chapter? Is there something else you're trying?
I'm trying a little bit of everything. I'm currently taking courses at the local arboretum, which is associated with UNC. And I'm going to become certified as a naturalist, a Blue Ridge naturalist. So now if I go on a hike with Robyn, I can tell her what the plants are, what the insects are, what the birds are. So that's keeping me busy with that. And then I take guitar lessons and tennis lessons, and I'm just enjoying life at this point.
Okay, this is so amazing. I don't know if other listeners hear that the way that I do, but I'm 53 and I grew up in an era when doctors they retired when they died. And
I'm not actually exaggerating. My grandfather's best friend was just a wonderful, caring, accomplished physician. And I think he needed to retire. He had no choice at, I don't remember, maybe it was 83. And everyone around him was concerned that he would just lose his will to live, which is kind of what happened. I mean, doctors would work until they were incapable of it. Now, that's not true anymore. That is definitely not true anymore. I think a lot of physicians, as soon as they hit 45, are counting the years until retirement. But that is a transition that has happened in the last few decades. And so I'm sure you've seen this phenomenon, Eric. Is that true?
Yeah, it's very true. Like my father was an internist and he would have kept working probably his whole life. Unfortunately, he got sick, but he would have kept working forever. I remember doing rounds with him when I was young, and there would be like guys in their 90s, these internists who were still rounding early in the morning. And that's because that's all I had in life. So I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to enjoy, as I got older, I wanted to enjoy my life. Being a physician, you sacrifice so much to being a physician. And I missed out on a lot of family events with my children. And now it was time for us to just say, all right, let's do what we want to do when we want to do it. And so this is where we are now.
Well, you speak about it as though it's so straightforward, but I know that takes a lot of courage and a lot of inner conviction, which I'm going to use as a segue for my biggest question that I bring to this conversation, because Robyn, knowing about Stress-Free MD and the way that you use yoga and meditation and inner calm as tools for thriving in professional context. This is me articulating it. That's not copy from your website. Would you agree with how I expressed it?
Yeah, that and life coaching, putting all of that together. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really curious, what did you notice in your own marriage? Is there anything that you would particularly attribute to a change or how you interact with one another or not changing between the two of you that's a direct consequence of you going so deeply into the stress-free space?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even recognize myself. I didn't want to be around me, whether it was outwardly so or inwardly so. I just was a very different person. And it just shifted me in a much better way. When your kid says, "Mommy, I like when you look at me when you talk to me." Oof. It's like, wow. When your child realizes that, so it really brought me to presence, more aware, more appreciative, just more alive.
And was it always a simple, harmonious transition? Because even when overall there's going to be more wellness, sometimes when our spouses change, it's complicated, even when it's for the better. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, I mean, I would let Eric decide on that, but I think it was just step by step for the better, little by little, recognizing that I was suffering from this whopping case of chronic stress and being able to little by little lift the layers and manage my physiology and my thoughts just made it better for everyone. Me, the way I saw life, my family. Yeah, my dog. Mm-hmm. Just really, I'll let Eric decide, but I don't think there was a backwards. I feel like there was only a forwards.
Beautiful. Eric, did you know she was burnt out before she told you?
She was having some issues, more physical. She was having aches and pains and headaches, and we didn't know what was going on. We got the MRIs and all the radiological studies. And it wasn't until later that we realized it was all from stress. But it was an easy transition for us once she started getting into the mindfulness like she said, there was no backwards movement of any of this. It was much more pleasurable being around each other because we understood what was going on and what the issues were.
Yeah. I just want to take a moment and notice that, because most of the time when one spouse makes a significant career change or a significant different internal orientation, there is a little bit of wobbliness along the way. And I think it just speaks to how important your work is that it was only smooth, that transition. Like, I won't spend more time highlighting it, but it's very unusual. If someone is practicing medicine and then shifts into coaching, like, it's complicated. It challenges people's identities. And I'm hearing, no, you just opened and it got better and better. Do you also meditate and do yoga, Eric? Are you on the bandwagon, so to speak?
No, I don't actively meditate, but I do a lot of walking in the woods. So that's sort of like my meditation. Just about every day I take the dog for a long walk. And I've been doing that since we lived in New Jersey. Like, now we're in Western North Carolina. Even in New Jersey, my relaxation was on the weekends, walking the dog in the woods. And I always would say to Robyn, this is what I need. I need to just get out there. And that's my time to just be at peace.
And have you ever wanted Eric to join you with yoga or meditation, Robyn? Is that a yearning you've ever had?
I really just want him to enjoy whatever he's doing. One time he joined me at a meditation and he really didn't love it, but it wasn't me leading it. It was a silent meditation led by someone else. So I think it's okay. What I love is that he is a totally different person since he has stepped down from his practice. Just everything, his facial expressions, how much he's sleeping, how much he notices what's going on in nature, how he takes a lot of time to talk to people when they're strangers. We have to pull him away, where he never had that patience to have a conversation with someone he didn't know. He's more present. So what worked for me was one thing, what worked for him is another thing. But I think we're both actually in similar paths, really better off overall.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. And that's a challenge that couples often face, which you both have the wisdom not to have faced, where when one person grows and evolves, they can become very attached to their spouse, growing and evolving in the same way. And I just think that's such a beautiful example that you meditate and do yoga, Robyn, and have no judgment for Eric that what he's doing is taking a walk in the woods, because for whatever reason, when we have our epiphanies and enlightenment, we think someone has to walk the same path to have their version. And there's such a deep respect in how the two of you speak. One of the questions that I really love to ask everyone that I interview, based on my conviction that relationship is the ultimate vehicle for personal growth, I wonder, I'll ask you first, Eric, what you've learned about yourself as a result of being married to Robyn.
I guess by being married to Robyn, it's brought probably more kindness in me. Robyn is one of the most kind, gentle people I know. I'm more on the dark side with my humor, and Robyn's always checking me with that to just make me realize how much goodness there is out there. And so that's with our relationship. She brings out, I guess, more goodness in me.
Beautiful. And what about you, Robyn? What have you learned about yourself specifically as a result of being married to Eric?
He just makes me laugh. And so much humor, just having fun. So silly. My kids think I'm so funny. And I said, I think that he made me funny. and people think that I'm funny. And it's actually, he just rubbed off on me and I could see things in a different way and have a lighter way about things. So laughter's amazing medicine.
I love that. Is laughter yoga one of the things you've done?
No, I tried it, and anyone out there that loves it, I have no disrespect for you, but I didn't really get into it. But again, everybody has different things that work for them. And my intention into why I was doing it was really more about homeostasis in the nervous system and finding that relaxation response and decreasing the stress response. So for me, a different type worked, but I know some people absolutely love it.
And for somebody who is trapped in the stress of being a practicing physician or any other aspect of life, but if someone is really trapped in stress right now, what's the best next step?
First is realization and acknowledgement of how you're feeling, and that it doesn't have to be this way, that it's normal to feel how you're feeling, but it's just a reaction to an abnormal situation. It doesn't mean it's okay. And that you have the innate ability to feel better all by yourself. You just need to learn how. And it's not your fault that you don't know how. No one's ever taught you. We were never taught this stuff in med school or any other school, if you're a non-medical professional, right? So every single one of us has the ability to feel better. We just need to learn how.
I feel like saying amen. Okay. And what about the person who has some stress, but is basically, by kind of Western society standards, managing well enough, and their partner is really suffering from stress and is not yet at the point of those realizations and doesn't really want to hear it from someone else? It's different if your child speaks to you, but that doesn't mean that the stressed out person wants to hear it from their spouse. It just can add to the stress if the timing isn't right. How can someone be supportive in that kind of situation?
I think you have to meet people where they are, and people have to want to help themselves. Like I've had that where someone's actually purchased sessions with me for someone else. And I can tell you, Alexandra, it rarely works out well because it hasn't come from the insides of that other individual. It's more of like, I guess I have to do this out of an obligation as opposed to a desire. So if the person that's feeling okay can somehow bring awareness gently to the person that's not and allow them to see what is, and if that person then wants to help themselves, that's the best way. But in my experience, you can't help people that don't want to help themselves.
Yeah, it's very interesting for me to hear that because I'm completely familiar with that phenomenon when it comes to couples coaching and wanting to improve relationships as well. Except in that case, for the person who isn't ready yet, I'll just say, to really take responsibility from the inside and change themselves in order to change their experience, it's pretty easy to blame the partner, to blame the spouse, if they would just change. But in the case of the stress that we're talking about in terms of professional context, it's much harder to blame it on someone or something particular. Is that true? I'm making that assumption.
Yeah, the thing is, we're ultimately responsible for our own health and how we're feeling, independent of what's going on around us. So in particular for physicians, right? So the healthcare system is broken and we can blame the healthcare system, and we know that it's broken, but we can actually be the healthiest, happiest versions of ourselves independent of that. When we learn how to work with tools to allow us to feel that way. We can blame our jobs. We can blame our family situation. We can blame politics. We can blame what's going on in the world. But ultimately, we are still in control of how we feel, of how we think, of how we show up, of the results we create. So when we recognize that, it's incredibly powerful. But until then, if we just keep blaming others and other things and circumstances, we're just going to stay stuck where we are.
What are some plans the two of you have for something in the future? Is there anything sparkling, a vacation or some experience that is calling you forward together?
Our 30th anniversary is coming up at the end of August.
Oh,
We're going to be traveling to Europe at that time for 2 weeks.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
How are you celebrating differently your 30th versus your 10th or 20th?
We're actually doing something. Now we have our daughter to thank because she was actually supposed to be traveling and then something happened with a friend of hers. And because we're in the position we're in, we said, okay, let's join you. And she considers us her dear friends, which is so wonderful. Mm-hmm. So we are going to be celebrating with her, and we can't think of a better way. And other than our son also joining us, but he's busy. But yeah, actually celebrating, doing something amazing that we've never done. And means even more now that the pandemic has been upon us to actually travel and to spend that quality time together.
Yeah, I really enjoy speaking with the two of you, and I want to express why. You speak about things that are so profound that could be expressed in such a dramatic way. Like, you're going to celebrate. And I'm assuming at your 20th, you were both working hard, or, I could make up a whole story about why the big difference is that you're actually celebrating. And there's just a lot of drama that you could sprinkle on pretty much every communication either one of you has made, because there are remarkable things you're sharing. But you don't add that. You just say it with this clean authenticity. And for those who catch it, great. And those who don't, you don't have any agenda about that. And that really moves me. And I want to give that reflection. To me, that is completely walking your talk, and that a podcast interview could feel sort of like taking a walk in the arboretum and looking at this flower and looking at that. What a beautiful way to move through life. Any final words either of you would like to share, Robyn?
I just want to thank you for inviting us on your podcast. And really, this is fun. Like, we've never done one together. So I really learned some things about what my husband thinks. After 30 something years together, I learned some new things today. So it's been enlightening, and I'm really grateful. So thank you.
Yes, I'm really glad. What about you, Eric? Anything to add?
Nothing to add at this point. No, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm just really grateful that your flavor of intimacy becomes part of this podcast conversation. So thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and please leave a rating and a review. And if you're ready to deepen your relationship and create a truly intimate, delicious, and vibrant marriage, head over to the Work With Me page at alexandrastockwell.com and choose the program that's right for you.